Welcome to Zen and Sufi Tales to awaken your soul and mind. In this audiobook, you will journey through timeless stories from Zen and Sufi traditions, each offering insights into mindfulness, compassion, inner strength, and spiritual awakening. These tales are not only ancient wisdom, they are practical guidance for modern life. Across 8 chapters, you will meet scholars and seekers, merchants and monks, rivers and reeds, stones and elephants, and even the silent spaces between thoughts. Each story invites you to pause, reflect, and discover the deeper truths that lie within your own mind and heart. As you listen, allow yourself to be fully present. Let the words resonate. Let the pauses give space for insight. And remember, this is not merely a listening experience. It is an invitation to awaken awareness, embrace stillness, and cultivate a life of mindful presence. Take a deep breath, settle comfortably, and open your mind and heart. The journey begins now. Chapter 1. The Empty Cup, Embracing Mindfulness. Today, we explore a story about mindfulness, about letting go, and about discovering wisdom in the most unexpected ways. It is said that once, long ago, there was a learned scholar. This scholar was well educated, respected in his town, and confident in his knowledge. He believed he had learned everything worth knowing. Yet, deep inside, he felt a restlessness, a sense that, somehow, he had not yet truly understood life itself. One day, he decided to visit a Zen master renowned for his insight. The scholar thought, "I must show this master what I already know. Surely, he will recognize my wisdom." He arrived at the master's small, serene tea house, where the smell of fresh tea leaves lingered in the air, and the gentle sound of water trickling over stone created a calm atmosphere. The scholar bowed respectfully. "Master," he said, "I have studied many books, traveled far, and mastered the teachings of many sages. I wish to learn from you, if you think you can teach me anything I do not already know." The Zen master smiled quietly. Without a word, he began to prepare tea. He placed a simple cup before the scholar and started pouring. The scholar watched carefully as the tea began to fill the cup. Soon it was brimming. Surely it was enough. But the master continued to pour. The tea overflowed, spilling gently onto the table, onto the floor, forming little streams that ran silently along the mat. The scholar exclaimed, "Stop! The cup is full. Can no more tea fit?" The master looked at him calmly. "You are like this cup," he said softly. "You are full of your own opinions, your own knowledge, your own judgments. How can I teach you anything unless you first empty your cup?" The scholar was taken aback. He had never considered that his knowledge could be a barrier rather than a gift. And yet, the scene before him, the overflowing tea, the serene presence of the master, struck something deep inside. For the first time, the scholar realized that wisdom is not about accumulating more information. It is about creating space in your mind, in your heart, and in your being, for understanding to enter. Pause for a few seconds, allowing the listener to reflect. The master continued, "Notice the tea. Even as it overflows, it continues to pour. Life is like this. Experiences, lessons, and truths flow toward you constantly. But if your mind is full of assumptions, prejudices, or arrogance, you will not truly receive them. Only when your cup is empty, only when you let go, can you embrace the world as it is." The scholar bowed deeply, understanding at last. He had come seeking knowledge, but what he truly needed was mindfulness, the ability to be present, to observe without judgment, to release his preconceived notions and open himself to the moment. And so, he stayed with the master, learning not from books, but from practice. From that day on, he carried the lesson of the empty cup with him, to listen deeply without assuming he already knew the answer. See life clearly without the distortion of his ego. Embrace each moment as it comes, without clinging to the past or fearing the future. Slight pause, gentle tone. Dear listener, the lesson here is simple, yet profound. True mindfulness begins when we release assumptions and judgments. Wisdom is not about filling your mind with more knowledge, but about creating the space to truly receive, to truly see, and to truly understand. Next time you feel full of opinions, ideas, or stress, imagine your mind as a cup. What could flow into your life if you emptied it for a while? What truths might you discover if you simply let go? As you carry this chapter with you, remember, mindfulness is not a task, but a practice. Like the overflowing tea, life continues to pour wisdom and experiences toward you. Empty your cup, be present, and let it flow. Chapter 2. The Reed Song, Finding Strength in Vulnerability. Today, we explore a story about inner strength, not the kind measured by power or force, but the kind that grows from embracing life's fragility and learning to bend without breaking. Long ago, in the lands where the Sufi poets wandered, there lived a man who sought wisdom and meaning through both suffering and joy. He observed the world with deep sensitivity, feeling the pain of others as if it were his own. Yet, in his own heart, he often wondered, how can I survive life's storms without being crushed? How can I remain whole when everything seems uncertain? One day, he walked along a riverbank, listening to the whisper of the reeds swaying in the wind. Their gentle rustling carried a song, a quiet, persistent melody. He paused, watching the slender reeds bend and sway with every gust, yet never break, no matter how strong the storm. It struck him suddenly. The reed was strong because it yielded. Its strength was not in resisting the wind, but in moving with it. It adapted, embraced the force, and yet remained rooted. In that moment, the poet saw a reflection of life itself. He sat down on the riverbank and began to write. I am like the reed that bends in the wind, fragile yet unbroken, swaying but standing. In surrender, I discover strength. In yielding, I find freedom. The poet realized something profound. Life would bring storms, loss, disappointment, hardship, but resisting or fighting them with rigidity would only lead to suffering. True resilience, he discovered, came from humility, from acknowledging one's own vulnerability, and from being flexible in the face of life's challenges. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The poet faced trials. Friends he cherished departed. Hopes he held dear were dashed, and the world around him often seemed harsh. And yet, like the reed, he learned to bend, to flow, to adapt. He discovered that yielding was not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it was a source of quiet, enduring strength. The lesson spread through his poetry, inspiring many who heard it. To embrace life's fragility without fear. Accept what cannot be controlled, while staying rooted in principles. Understand that flexibility and humility are not signs of surrender, but the foundation of true strength. Dear listener, consider your own life for a moment. How often do we mistake rigidity for strength? How often do we resist change, fear vulnerability, and hold tightly to control? The reed teaches us another way. By yielding gracefully, by bending rather than breaking, we cultivate resilience that is lasting and profound. You, too, can be like the reed. In moments of challenge, instead of resisting, try yielding. Let yourself sway with life's currents without losing your essence. Flexibility, humility, and acceptance and not weakness. They are the hidden roots of inner strength. Chapter 3. The Stone and the River, Patience and Persistence. Today, we explore a story about patience, persistence, and the quiet power of gentle effort. It is a story that teaches us that transformation does not always come in a sudden burst. It often comes slowly, steadily, over time. Long ago, in a valley surrounded by mountains, there lay a great stone. Solid, heavy, and seemingly unmovable, it had rested in the riverbed for countless years. Travelers would pause to look at it and marvel at its size and strength. It seemed unyielding, permanent, and invincible. Nearby, a small river flowed continuously, day after day, year after year. Its waters were gentle, sometimes playful, sometimes strong with the seasonal rains, but always moving, always flowing. The stone looked down upon the river with quiet arrogance, thinking, "What can this little stream do to me? I am solid and eternal. I will not bend, I will not change." Yet the river, undeterred, continued its course. It flowed over the stone, around the stone, sometimes whispering softly against it, sometimes pounding with greater force. Over years, the stone began to change. Its edges smoothed, its sharp angles softened. Tiny grooves appeared where the water consistently kissed its surface. The change was subtle, almost imperceptible day by day. To the casual observer, the stone seemed the same as ever. But decades passed, and what was once rigid and harsh had transformed into something gentle, sculpted, and harmonious. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Consistency matters more than force, patience more than haste. The river did not shout, demand, or fight. It simply flowed every day, gently but persistently. And in doing so, it reshaped the mighty stone. Consider your own life for a moment. Often, we look for quick results, instant success, or immediate recognition. We grow impatient with the pace of change, frustrated when transformation feels slow. Yet the most profound growth often occurs quietly, in small, steady steps that accumulate over time. The story of the stone and the river reminds us that consistent, mindful effort, even if small, can reshape the seemingly immovable obstacles in life. Patience is not passive. It is an active, deliberate practice of persistence. Transformation is rarely abrupt. It emerges gradually, with care, attention, and unwavering dedication. Imagine the river as your daily actions, your habits, your intentions, your mindful efforts. Perhaps you meditate each morning, even for a few minutes. Perhaps you speak kindly to others, even when it is difficult. Perhaps you practice gratitude or honesty, even when no one notices. Like the river, these small, steady efforts may seem insignificant at first. The results may not appear immediately, but over time, they shape your character, soften your rough edges, and create lasting, meaningful change. Remember, the stone did not resist forever. It did not remain exactly as it was. Life's gentle forces, applied patiently, consistently, with care, have the power to transform what seems immovable. You, too, can allow this gentle persistence to reshape your mind, your heart, and your life. So, the next time you feel a change is impossible or that your efforts are too small, think of the river. Think of its quiet, persistent flow. Trust the process. Be patient. Stay consistent. And know that transformation, real, profound transformation, will come. Chapter 4. The Blind Man and the Elephant. Seeing Beyond Ego. Today, we explore a story about perspective, humility, and the limits of our own understanding. It is a tale that reminds us that wisdom is not found in asserting our opinion, but in opening our minds to the broader truth. Long ago, in a village nestled between hills and rivers, there lived a group of blind men. Though they could not see, they were curious and eager to understand the world around them. One day, the villagers brought an elephant into the town square, a magnificent, gentle giant that none of the blind men had ever encountered. Excited and eager to learn, each blind man approached the elephant and touched it. One placed his hands on the broad side of the elephant. "Ah," he said confidently, "the elephant is like a wall, solid and flat." Another touched the elephant's tusk. "No," he said, shaking his head, "the elephant is sharp and smooth, like a spear." A third held the trunk. "You are both mistaken," he insisted. "The elephant is flexible, like a thick snake, moving and coiling as it breathes." The others grabbed the legs. "You are all wrong," they argued. "The elephant is sturdy, strong, like a tree trunk." Each blind man was certain he understood the elephant. Each defended his view fiercely. Their arguments grew louder and more insistent. The villagers watched, amused and concerned, as the blind men debated passionately, yet none of them could see the truth. Finally, a wise teacher approached. She listened patiently to the blind men, then spoke softly. "You are all correct, and you are all mistaken. None of you has seen the elephant in its entirety. You each touched only a part, and from that part, you assumed you understood the whole. But the elephant is more than your limited perspective." The teacher continued, "This is how it is with life. Each of us perceives the world through our own experiences, our own biases, our own ego. We see what we wish to see, or what we believe we already know. And yet, our understanding is always partial, limited, incomplete." The blind men bowed their heads, realizing the truth in her words. They had been so certain of themselves that they had missed the bigger picture. Their ego had narrowed their perception, leading them to argue over what they thought was absolute. The teacher concluded, "True understanding does not come from insisting that our view is correct. It comes from openness, humility, and the willingness to see beyond ourselves. Only when we release the grip of ego can we begin to perceive reality as it truly is." Dear listener, consider your own life for a moment. How often do we judge situations or people based solely on our limited perspective? How often do we insist that we are right, without seeking to understand the broader context? The story of the blind men and the elephant reminds us that wisdom requires seeing beyond ourselves. Openness allows us to learn from others. Humility lets us acknowledge that our understanding is incomplete. Perspective invites us to explore the whole, rather than clinging to fragments. Next time you feel certain about your viewpoint, imagine the blind men and the elephant. Ask yourself, am I seeing the whole truth, or just a part? Am I listening, or am I insisting? By embracing openness and humility, we can move closer to true understanding. In this way, we not only see more clearly, but we also cultivate compassion for others, for their experiences, and for the vastness of life itself. Chapter 5. The Guest House, Embracing Life's Emotions. Today, we explore a story about our inner world, about emotions, and about the practice of welcoming every feeling that arises within us. It is a lesson in mindfulness and spiritual growth, taught through a beautiful Sufi metaphor. A Sufi poet once wrote that life is like a guest house. Every day, New visitors arrive, some welcome, some unexpected, and some unwelcome. Some bring joy and delight, others bring sorrow, anger, or fear. And yet, every visitor has a purpose, a lesson to offer. Imagine your heart as a house. The door opens, and emotions enter, sometimes smiling, sometimes shouting, sometimes silent and heavy. The poet teaches that each emotion, no matter how difficult, is temporary and all worthy of attention and respect. One morning, a young seeker approached the Sufi master. "Master," he asked, "why do I feel so restless, so burdened by anger, fear, and sadness? How can I find peace?" The master smiled and replied, "Think of your heart as a guest house. Each feeling, whether joy or sorrow, is a visitor. Welcome them. Do not resist them, and do not cling to them. Let them enter. Let them stay as long as they need, and let them leave when their time comes. Peace arises not from avoiding emotions, but from embracing them without attachment or aversion." The seeker was puzzled. "But, Master," he said, "if I welcome anger or fear, will they not overwhelm me?" The master shook his head gently. "No. When you resist, when you try to push them away, they grow stronger. But when you observe them, allow them to exist, and understand them, their power diminishes. They come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. Your awareness is a sky, vast, open, and unshaken. Your emotions are the clouds, temporary, changing, and part of the natural flow." And so the seeker practiced. When sadness arrived, he welcomed it. When joy arrived, he celebrated it. When fear or anger came, he observed without judgment. Day by day, he discovered that his inner turbulence began to settle. By embracing his emotions instead of resisting them, he found clarity, balance, and peace. Dear listener, consider your own inner guest house. How often do we resist feelings we find unpleasant? How often do we cling desperately to the moments of happiness, fearing their loss? The Sufi poet reminds us that all emotions, whether joyful or sorrowful, are visitors in our lives. Mindfulness is not avoiding feelings. It is observing them. Peace arises when we do not judge ourselves for what we feel. Spiritual growth comes when we allow every emotion to teach us its lesson. Next time anger arises, or sadness, or even joy that seems fleeting, imagine opening the door of your inner guest house. Welcome the visitor. Observe it. Let it teach you without resistance, without fear, and without clinging. In this practice, you will discover a calm, spacious presence within, a sky that is vast, open, and unshaken by passing clouds. Remember, life is full of visitors. Some stay briefly, others linger. Each has a purpose. By welcoming them with awareness and mindfulness, you transform your inner world from turbulence to clarity, from restlessness to peace. Chapter 6. The Silent Bell, the Power of Stillness. Today, we explore a story about stillness, the quiet spaces between the noise of life, and the wisdom that can arise when we simply pause, observe, and listen. Long ago, in a remote Zen monastery perched atop a misty mountain, there lived a monk who sought understanding and clarity. He spent his days in meditation, in study, and in service to the temple. Yet, despite his disciplined practice, he felt a lingering sense of unrest. Questions and thoughts crowded his mind. Answers seemed elusive. One morning, the abbot of the monastery asked him to join a session of silent meditation in the main hall. The hall was vast and empty, save for a single, large bronze bell suspended in the center. Its surface gleamed faintly in the soft morning light. The abbot spoke only one sentence. Listen carefully to the bell. The monk bowed and took his seat, closing his eyes. The bell remained silent at first. Minutes passed. His mind, accustomed to constant movement, churned with thoughts. What am I supposed to hear? Is the bell broken? Why is it silent? Then, without warning, the bell rang. Not loudly, not abruptly, but with a gentle resonance that filled the entire hall. The sound lingered, vibrating in the air and then in his own chest. And then, slowly, silence returned. At first, the monk noticed only the sound, but as he listened more deeply, he began to notice the silence that followed the ringing. The stillness was vast, quiet, and complete. It held no judgment, no distraction, no rushing thoughts. It was pure presence. The monk realized that the deepest truths often arise not in noise, not in striving, not in the frantic accumulation of knowledge, but in stillness. In the quiet spaces, insight grows naturally. In the pauses between actions, clarity emerges. In moments of reflection, the heart and mind align. He understood that life often tempts us with busyness, distraction, and constant movement. We search for wisdom in endless conversation, in the reading of texts, or in chasing achievements. Yet, like the bell, the most profound understanding resonates only when we create space to hear it. The abbot spoke again. Notice, my student, the bell does not force you to hear it. It simply rings, and you listen. Likewise, wisdom does not demand your understanding. It arises when you are still enough to perceive it. The monk sat in silence, letting the truth sink deeply into his being. He realized that inner clarity and insight are cultivated not through constant activity, but through quiet reflection and mindful presence. Stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness, the fullness of awareness. Dear listener, consider your own life. How often do you rush from one task to the next, filling your days with noise and distraction? How often do you seek answers outside, when the clearest understanding waits in the quiet spaces within? Stillness allows your mind to settle. Silence opens a space for insight to arise naturally. Reflection nourishes clarity and inner wisdom. You do not need a grand retreat or mountainside monastery to experience this. Even a few moments of quiet each day, listening to your own breath, observing the stillness of your surroundings, or simply pausing before action, can awaken understanding, peace, and alignment. Remember, like the silent bell, wisdom is always present. It does not demand your attention, yet it is available to those who are willing to stop, listen, and notice. Let stillness become your teacher. Let reflection guide your mind. In the quiet, you will find the answers that noise can never reveal. Chapter 7. The Wise Merchant, Compassion in Action. Today, we explore a story about compassion, kindness, and the practical application of mindfulness in everyday life. It is a reminder that true wisdom is not only inward, it flows outward in the way we treat others. Long ago, in a bustling town along a trade route, there lived a merchant known for his wealth and success. His shops overflowed with goods from distant lands, and his coins jingled with each transaction. Yet, despite his prosperity, the merchant often wondered about the meaning of life and whether his wealth brought true happiness. One day, a poor traveler arrived at the marketplace. His clothes were worn, his feet dusty from the long journey. He had little to offer, and yet he carried a quiet dignity in his eyes. Seeing the traveler struggle to find food, the merchant felt a sudden impulse. Without hesitation, he invited the traveler into his shop, offering him bread, fruit, and water. The merchant did not ask for payment, nor did he seek recognition. He simply helped. The traveler ate gratefully and prepared to leave. Before departing, he said softly, "Your generosity is a light in a world so often dark. May it return to you in ways you cannot imagine." The merchant nodded, smiling, but did not fully grasp the depth of the moment. To him, it was a simple act, almost ordinary. Yet the lesson had already taken root. Weeks later, the merchant faced a series of difficulties. A shipment was delayed, and a storm damaged some of his goods. He felt worry and frustration rising within him. In his moment of doubt, he remembered the traveler and the act of kindness he had shown. A sense of calm came over him, a quiet reassurance that true wealth was not counted in coins or goods, but in compassion and ethical action. The merchant realized something profound. Wealth is measured not by what we possess, but by what we give. Mindfulness is not only an inward practice, it manifests in how we treat others. Compassion, freely given, enriches both the giver and the recipient. In the days that followed, the merchant continued his trade, but his perspective had shifted. Every interaction became an opportunity for kindness. Every transaction, an opportunity to serve. He noticed that his life, once filled with stress and worry, became lighter, richer, and more meaningful. Dear listener, consider your own life. How often do we practice mindfulness only for ourselves? How often do we meditate, reflect, or seek inner peace, yet forget that true growth manifests in action? The Sufi merchant reminds us that compassion is a bridge between inner awareness and outer wisdom. When we help without expectation, we cultivate humility. When we act with kindness, we strengthen connection and understanding. When we practice ethical mindfulness, our inner peace ripples outward, touching others in ways we may never fully see. Even small acts can have a profound impact. A smile to a stranger, a moment of patience, a gesture of generosity. These are the ways our mindfulness becomes alive in the world. Like the merchant, we discover that the wealth of the heart far surpasses the wealth of possessions. Remember, listener, mindfulness is not only a personal practice. It is an action, a living expression of compassion, empathy, and understanding. The world is full of travelers in need, both literally and metaphorically. Each act of kindness is a step toward awakening, a tangible way to live the Chapter 8, The Lantern in the Dark, Awakening the Soul. Today, we explore a story about spiritual illumination, self-discovery, and a quiet light that resides within each of us. It is a tale that reminds us that the guidance we seek outwardly often resides inwardly, waiting for our awareness to recognize it. Long ago, there was a seeker who wandered through a dense, dark forest. The trees were tall and ancient, their branches weaving a canopy so thick that only fragments of light fell to the forest floor. The seeker carried a lantern, though its flame was faint, flickering with uncertainty. He traveled far, seeking wisdom from sages, teachers, and masters, hoping to find clarity in the world around him. For days and nights, he journeyed, sometimes feeling lost, sometimes fearful, sometimes discouraged. The darkness of the forest mirrored the doubts and questions within him. He asked himself again and again, where's the truth? Where's the light? Where will I find the wisdom I seek? Finally, he arrived at a small clearing where a Zen master sat quietly. The master did not speak at first. He simply observed the seeker with calm, attentive eyes. At last, the seeker asked, trembling slightly. Master, I have traveled far through darkness and uncertainty. I seek wisdom, clarity, and understanding. How can I find the light? The master smiled gently. Look not around you, he said softly. The light you seek is not elsewhere. It has always been within you. You carry it as your own flame, your own awareness. The lantern you hold illuminates only what you allow your mind to see. The seeker's eyes widened. But how do I see it clearly? Master, I feel surrounded by darkness, by doubt, by confusion. The master gestured to the lantern. You have been looking for guidance outside yourself, hoping the world will shine a light for you. Yet true awakening comes from self-awareness. When you pause, reflect, and align with your inner wisdom, your own light will shine, illuminating the path before you. Darkness is not your enemy. It is a space in which your light becomes visible. The seeker sat down, taking a deep breath. He closed his eyes and focused on his own awareness, observing thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. Slowly, a sense of calm and clarity arose. The flickering flame of the lantern steadied. The darkness no longer felt oppressive. It became a canvas on which his inner light could shine. He realized that all his searching, all his travel, had been leading to this moment. The recognition that the wisdom he sought was never outside, never distant, but always within him. The role of a teacher, a journey, or an experience was simply to remind him to look inward and notice the flame already present. Dear listener, consider your own inner lantern. How often do we look outward, searching for guidance, validation, or answers, while overlooking the quiet light within us? True awakening is not about accumulating knowledge from the outside world. It is about self-awareness, reflection, and aligning with your inner wisdom. Your inner light is always present, even when doubts obscure it. Darkness is not an obstacle. It is a space where your awareness illuminates truth. Reflection, mindfulness, and self-awareness reveal the path forward. You may not always see the full path, and uncertainty may arise. Yet the more you trust your inner light, the more it will guide you. Like the lantern in the forest, your awareness reveals what is necessary, step by step. Remember, dear listener, the journey of awakening is not about finding something new. It is about recognizing what has always been there. The light within you, the wisdom within you, the clarity within you, all await your attention. When you pause, reflect, and allow awareness to shine, you awaken your soul, illuminating the path with the quiet brilliance of understanding. Through 8 chapters of stories, you have explored mindfulness, humility, compassion, patience, stillness, and the inner light that guides us through life. From the overflowing cup of a Zen master, to the swaying reed in the wind, to the lantern that illuminates the darkness within, you have walked a path of reflection, insight, and awakening. Remember, the lessons of these tales do not end here. They are meant to be carried into your daily life. Each moment offers an opportunity to practice presence, to act with compassion, to embrace the fullness of your emotions, and to recognize the wisdom that already resides within you. Return to these stories whenever you need guidance, clarity, or calm. Allow them to inspire your actions, deepen your awareness, and illuminate your path. May your journey be filled with stillness, insight, and the quiet light of understanding.